Welcome to episode 10 of Unsportsmanlike Conduct. This week we have Ben back. He's been gone for a few weeks. So Ben, welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to be back. It's been a little bit of a rocky 2 weeks, but definitely glad that I finally get to have a little fun again. So really looking forward to episode 10. Glad to be back now that we've hit double digits.
Double digits.
Yes.
It's really cool to think that we got to episode 10. Last week I announced we had over 100 views so far. I think it's the same 13, 14 views we get every single week. We might get some randoms that are hitting it, but it's great so far.
You know, I think it brings me a lot of pleasure knowing that, yes, we've got, quote, our listeners, but more importantly, the fact that there could be somebody out there just completely stumbles upon this, it makes me so happy. Like, you poor person, thank you for watching. We appreciate you so much.
So, Ben, welcome back. I'm glad you're back. Over the next couple weeks, some of the things that I'm going to start trying to integrate a little bit more, I kind of touched on it just a bit last week. Well, I want to get more people involved with this podcast. We've had half the league represented so far in this podcast. I want to get the rest. I at least want to have at least someone from every team represented in this podcast before the season's over.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good goal.
Gonna do some interview-like things. I could, with interviews, my plan is just gonna ask a series of questions. I'm not gonna have a lot of back and forth. I'm gonna let whoever I'm interviewing do a lot of talking, and then Ben and I will have a reaction segment in these podcast episodes. So, still mapping some of this out, but I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, and it will help me get other people involved. Yep. So I might travel down the line and have an interview with Ryan and AJ and Clark all in one night. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So
it's a panel.
A panel. Yeah, that'd be great. So Ben and I will also update our fantasy power rankings, top 3 teams in the league currently. Ben and I will share our projected last place teams. We'll, of course, do the matchup breakdowns for the week. And then we have some other topics of discussion that we'll get into at the tail end of the podcast. So, Ben, I want to start with you right now. You've been gone for a few weeks.
Yep.
Well, first, let me ask you this. How are you feeling about your team right now?
You know, I'm actually feeling pretty good about my team. I think they've really started to find some footing and really start establishing who they are. I think, excuse me, the chili came back.
First episode back and you're already being rude, Ben. Come on.
It's true. I apologize to everyone. Where are my manners? My mother would be so ashamed.
I'm proud of you.
But yeah, my team, I think they've really started pulling stuff together. I'm happy to say that my team is number 4 in the standings right now. I don't know that I really expected that. Well, I guess when we started the season, I think I told you that I thought they're kind of that mid tier. So that 4 to 8 spot, I think, is kind of where I thought was a happy line for them. And so far, I think they're kind of performing where they are. I think you look at my team; they are grinding out wins. My players are not by any means blowing people out, but they're steady. I think we've talked about before that consistency can be one of the keys to really establishing a good team. Yeah. Maybe you don't have a bunch of people scoring, 40, 50 points a game, but if you have those guys that you can always count on to at least reach double digits, yeah, I feel pretty good about the team right now, and I'm hoping it continues. I really, really would enjoy seeing the playoffs this year after having finished dead last year.
So a good way to rebound.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I honestly was kind of wondering the same thing about you. We're gonna have to maybe talk about your team at some point here. So,
I mean, I'm still at the bottom. I don't need attention right now. I want to be under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned, you're right. Your team is it's in the top right now. What are your top 3 teams in the league?
Oh yeah.
I could pull up
I
the standings here too.
yeah, if you don't mind. I earlier the last time we talked on the podcast, I'm pretty sure I definitely threw Cameron's team in the mix, and I don't think that's changed. I still think Cameron's team remains one of those ones where if you play him, you're worried. Uh, there's a lot of stuff to like about that team. Um, I got to give some props to AJ because being in
Yeah.
first place, he's really done a good job about kind of hitting on some things, and he's had the right people kind of pull in at the right moments, like being able to kind of use Zach Moss as he's been kind of filling in Indianapolis. It's really helped him get some solid footing, but there's
Yeah.
still some really solid players on AJ's team. So I'm actually a huge fan right now of Zay Flowers. I know he's riding AJ's bench right now. AJ, if you want to hook him up with team 2 pumps, let me know. I'll make it happen.
Ben will give him some pumps.
Yep, I'll give him some pumps. um, we're looking at the standings. Obviously, Mike is number 2, and I think we all know where I feel on that. Mike is not a number 2 team. I'll just say it. Mike, you will never be number 2. Yeah, you'll never be number 1 as long as I'm the one judging. So, the teams that kind of stand out to me is, again, I've said it. Little Josh's team is actually really good. It needs more time to put some stuff together. I just look at that team. I go, I can't believe that's in the bottom half. So I do think that, especially as close as our standings are, maybe give it 2-3 weeks. Josh might be up there in that 5-6 spot, maybe. But if I'm actually gonna go ahead and throw it to somebody, I actually believe that Ryan and Mark's team is probably one of the better ones out there because they do put up some serious points. I really do think that again is another team where they're not maybe getting the attention that they should, and they're going up in some hard matchups. So if I'm really narrowing it down, I'll go ahead and say AJ, Cameron, and I'll go ahead and go Ryan and Mark. I
All right.
I really think those 3 are those teams that I look at. I'm like, crap, don't really want to play that.
Well, I agree with 2 of those. I agree with AJ, and I agree with Cameron's. A lot of the same reasons. I don't agree with Ryan and Mark's team. I think their team has home run potential, but they struggle with consistency.
Yep.
The thing with little Josh, we talked about his team a lot because we had that big trade this week, which we'll talk about later. He asked me if I thought he could win with that team, and I told him like you could. I'm like, that's a team that if you make the playoffs, which I'm like, I could really see you doing it. I don't want to play you. It was like a few years back ago, Ryan and Mark, they were just losing games.
Mm-hmm.
They just had bad luck, but that was the team that I did not want to play against because it was the best team in the league. It just wasn't winning games. Everybody was playing out of their mind against them.
Yep.
And they got healthy at the right time of the year. So with Josh's team, I see that. Last week he got robbed.
Yes.
Sorry, Mickey V.
Yep.
You should have lost that game.
I almost
they
wish,
did it dirty with Bijan.
Yeah, I almost wish that we could go in there and change that outcome because, like, again, that was just so shisty the way that went down.
It is.
Arthur Smith should be ashamed of himself.
I told Josh that it's a crappy franchise, crappy coach earlier today.
Yep.
But it's one of those things. It's nature of the beast. I wouldn't dare do that because you just open up a can of worms. Even for how unfair that might seem to Josh, he played a player that he thought was going to play. He had every reason to think he was going to play, just to find out I can always point back to the game last year where Rob and I had teams or players, and we have every reason to believe that we could have won that game, but that game got canceled.
Yep.
And that's just the nature of the beast. It sucks. It's unfortunate. If that's how you're going to lose, it's like, okay, you got to rely on this to beat me. So that's one way you could look at it. But a win is
Yep.
still a win. So Mike
It's
has
true.
that black magic or something going on, according to little Josh. So
little Josh may actually have something here. I've been accusing JP of using black magic on the league for years now, and Josh wanted me to kind of bring this up and maybe touch on it, but I do have to correct Josh here, which is Mike can't have black magic. Mike is Mike, you've been called the White Rabbit. We've called you the albino. It's very clearly shisty white magic is what it is.
Can you call
So
it albino magic?
Albino magic, maybe. Yeah. So that's really what we're looking at here. And I think that it maybe is my role to call these things out when I see them happening. Josh, you are very much a practitioner of the dark arts, the black magic. And Mike may be your counterpart as the albino magic wizard. Maybe a better comparison is for you Lord of the Rings nerds out there, Saruman the White. Maybe that's Mike. Just throwing it out there. If that is the case, Mike, I will remind you that, well, if you watch the movies or read the books, he gets killed in the end. Sorry for spoilers, guys.
You wrecked it.
I know, I wrecked it. But Mike, I'm not threatening you, but the next time I face you, I will destroy you. just throwing that out there.
I'll destroy him this week. I'll do it for you, Ben.
See, I need you to do it.
And if I lose, well, guess what? That's expected. I shouldn't win anyways. So, but I got AJ. I have AJ and Cameron, and then for my third, I have your team. I've said your team the past couple of weeks. The games that you lost to defenses that just blew up.
Yeah, my losses. I've got 2 losses on the season, and both times the defenses that I was playing against that week, they both scored 30 plus points. So I don't think I've ever had that happen before.
And the thing I'll say about your team, Ben, your team is one of the most consistent teams week to week. So
I like it. It's a little nerve-wracking at times, though. I really wonder, what happens when these guys don't score and meet that potential. Yeah. Then I think I might be in serious trouble. We'll see.
So, all right. Who's your projected last place team right now?
Oh boy. I really hate doing this. I love you, Stevie, so much. I really do, but it's 0-7 now, and I don't know that you can catch up at this point, bud.
I think he knows he's not going to catch up, have any chance for the playoffs. I mean, if he wins out, he'll have 7-7 going into the playoffs, which you can make the playoffs at a 7-7 record.
You definitely could.
His team's not built to make that. It's built to, can he sneak in a win one of the last 2 weeks of the season? Or can he sneak in and get either 7th or 8th place?
And, I don't like, I really don't want anybody to be last, but that is literally how this stuff works. So, I look at this stuff and, I feel bad for Steve because I do look at some of the things that have happened to that team. And yes, like he said, some of it's poor decisions, some of it's just dumb luck. Some of it's banking on players that just cannot reach their potential, apparently. So it's tough. It really is. But that is the nature of this game. And I will say that Steve Steve has been trying to work a little magic and try to figure out some trades and stuff. I can go ahead and say that Steve did try to offer me a trade this week, and I very much rejected it. But it's because it's not that I don't want to trade, but it's what Steve was offering in that particular line. He was trying to ship me Joe Mixon, and as little Josh can tell you, I absolutely hate Joe Mixon. I cannot stand him. It's like one of my least favorite running backs. There's a couple running backs that I always try to make sure do not end up on my team. And I know people are going to disagree about this, but I hate having Derrick Henry. I hate having Joe Mixon. Melvin Gordon has always been the absolute bane of my existence. I have hated that man with a fiery passion that will never change. Uh, so there's some players that I just cannot bring myself to buy into, and Josh has been one of those guys who has in the past picked Joe Mixon and drafted him, and
Yeah.
I just can't get on board with it. I think, if I'm being honest, I think he's one of the weakest spots in that offense. And maybe that's what is missing from the Bengals. Maybe they could have had a much better start if they had a little bit more power at the run game.
Oh, I
While
disagree with that. That was not their problem to start off with.
well, is Joe Burrow and the offense not being able to do anything. Defense was kind of lackluster too. But I'm saying that maybe having some other pieces in there that can kind of help carry instead of relying on certain things, you got to be able to be a little bit more than one dimensional. And to me, the Bengals, if they aren't passing the ball, they're not moving the ball.
No,
That's how I feel.
and I mean that's a team. Not to go into a tangent on Cincinnati, but that's a team. If Burrow is doing his job, what we expect him to do, Mixon, he'll be fine. Like he's not going to be anything flashy, but he'll get you points. But you can't. He can't carry a game for you.
No.
You have to have Burrow. So I'm not against Mixon. I mean, he's somebody that I would probably drop to my team, depending on where that fell. Like I don't hate him like you do.
Yeah.
But a lot of it starts with Joe Burrow. If he's doing what he can do, then he'll be just fine.
Yep.
It's just like Isaiah Pacheco on the Chiefs. If Mahomes wasn't there, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. So, all right, let's. Oh, and yeah, I still think Steve's gonna get last place. Yeah,
just throw that in there really quick.
We talked last week. His team, product of mostly bad luck, some bad decisions, and there's just nothing that you can do about it. So his team was a middle of the pack team to start with some potential up and down. It's mostly a product of bad luck. So I think Steve had a good word for it. He confused. I'm kind of confused with how it played out too. And then he just tried doubling down on stuff, and it just didn't pay out. He's trying. So, all right, let's get to some. Where's my matchups? Here we go. Let's get some matchups. We are actually going to start from the top.
Oh yeah. Well, do I really have to say anything? I feel like people know exactly who I'm going to pick to win. Like,
if you want to start, Ben, you go for it.
All right. Well, it's not that I necessarily even. Well, I want it, but I need it. I need this. I need the Mama's Boys to beat down Uncle Mike. So if you pay attention to the standings, what you guys will see is that Mike is up there at number 2, I believe, in the standings, and me and Cameron are 3 and 4. So I would love to see Mike get handed a loss this weekend in hopes that I can jump ahead of Mike. Talking the actual matchup, I'll be honest. It's what I keep saying. You guys clearly have the better quarterback. That's not even a question.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Kirk, you don't really know which receiver is going to blow up in a Jacksonville game, but you can count on one of them doing it. You just don't know which.
It has been mostly Kirk. I will argue he is their true number 1 receiver right now.
I would say the same, being the guy who owns Calvin Ridley. So yeah, I'm actually playing that game right now of do I bench Calvin Ridley this week? So we'll see. Like I said, I want you guys to win. I think there's pieces that could definitely make that difference. Who knows what Jonathan Taylor can do against New Orleans? If they're slowly easing him back in. So
I think last week was a testament that like they are giving him more and more, and he's playing. So
I in this instance, it's weird to say this, but I think that the advantage in running backs goes to you guys just a little bit, but it's probably more so that Mike's running backs aren't really strong, but also their matchups aren't great this week. Green Bay can be a little tough to play on the run at least, and Tampa Bay's taking on Buffalo on Thursday night. I don't know that you get a whole lot of running against Buffalo right now.
Yeah.
So I look at that and this matchup. I really do think what it comes down to more than anything, I think, is going to be the quarterback play. And Andrew's going to hate this. I think it's kickers. I think it's those two. So I will 100% take Dallas's kicker over Vegas's kicker right now. I think that's a much better matchup there. So in the end, I think you guys can pull out a win. I think it'll be a very close game. But I think what really settles this in the end is Jalen Hurts and Dallas's kicker.
So this is my third kicker this year. How crazy is that?
Yep.
We've had some bad luck. Maybe we should get rid of kickers.
Nah.
Well,
no, you got to learn to play the game. Use the strategy. For a small fee, I will teach you guys how to actually draft and pick kickers.
Oh no, I have the strategy. I got it down. It's just I didn't expect Cincinnati to be crap. All of Andrew's teams are crap. Maybe it's because he hates kickers.
I would argue that it's just basically, is Andrew choosing you? If that's the case, you may lose. That may be your season.
So, I actually think Rob and I will win this week. Mike's team, it's finding ways to win. I think a lot of it just banks on Hill and Brown having big games.
Yep.
And Mike should have lost this last week.
Yep.
And sure, Hill and Brown might have a big game. Madison, you'll get consistent points with him, nothing flashy. White, consistent games, nothing flashy. Laporta, consistent games, nothing flashy.
Yep.
That's it. Like, he has 2 big home run hitters. And on my team, I think I have a home run hitter back with Taylor. I could go toe-to-toe with him between Hurts and Taylor for home run hitters.
Yeah, I think there's more potential for some home run hitters if you're looking at your roster.
Yeah.
It's
and then Puka. I forgot about I have him in my flex spot.
Yep.
I think the big thing that's going for Rob and I right now, the pickup of Henderson last week. That was the last second pickup, and then word that he was starting. I'm like, I'm playing him. Yep. And it's like, okay, I think it's going to be the Henderson show for a handful of weeks, and that can get us some wins and some buys. I think if we didn't have him there, I would give the edge to Mike. But I think with Henderson, I could I win the running back matchup. My wide receivers can match, likely won't, can match his. And everything else, I mean, he beats me a little bit on tight ends, but Schultz has been probably more consistent.
I think it's actually a pretty much almost a toss-up there because Schultz has had some pretty impressive games quietly. So he's a nice little catch for I can't remember his name, the quarterback, C.J. Stroud. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice little connection there. I think that we'll see that for at least a couple more seasons to come. I think there's some untapped potential there.
Yeah. And then more importantly, I know how to defeat the magic. Little Josh tries the black magic on me years ago, and I've defeated it, destroyed it. It doesn't work. Mike, with your albino magic, it won't happen. You should just bench all your players. Take the L. Be man.
Yep. I agree. I completely agree. Well, Mitch, who's our next matchup?
We have Andrew and Drew.
Oh, so it's the Drew versus Drew battle.
It's the Drew versus Drew. Let me make sure there's nothing crazy going on their bench right now.
Can we call this the Battle of Drooshbags?
I guess you can. Um, so, all right. So this is what I'm going to say. I think it's going to go to Orscheln. Is who I think is going to win, and I think it's because both teams are struggling at quarterback. Drew doesn't even have a quarterback this week because I really don't think Purdy's going to play, and he needs to do something different there. You might need to go pick Dak back up. Orscheln, what are you doing with Love?
He's in love. Okay.
I guess he's in love. I think he likes that Watson combo. I think you are gonna dig yourself a grave. You're lucky with your record right now.
Yep.
You need to do something with your quarterback situation. Trevor is doing better. He's a little bit more consistent. Let's look here. Okay.
Yeah.
He's roughly around his projected score.
Yep.
Love started off strong.
He did, and then he kind of fell off, and it's almost like it started taking a little bit downward turn. Then they had the bye, and I guess against Denver, that's basically got what was projected. But come on, guys, it's Denver. You should be able to put up a lot more, considering what Miami did to Denver.
If Andrew could find a way to get himself a better quarterback, I know Lawrence is a little bit of a disappointment, but I think week to week he has more potential with Lawrence than he does with Love. But this week it might not matter because Drew's going to be fighting for a quarterback. I give the edge to Orscheln. Neither team will score over 100. I think Swift will have a big game this week. Jacobs, I don't expect to have a good week. Kupp, it's his turn. It was Puka last week. It's going to be Kupp lighting up Dallas. I think Puka's going to have a big game too. And this is an all or nothing almost anymore. Ever since AJ Brown went diva mode, which I'm glad he did. I mean, he's I think one more game of 125 yards plus. Like if he does that again, he has the record for that most consecutive games. Like he's tied with 2 right now, and one of those is Calvin Johnson.
Yep.
I'm not going to compare him to Calvin Johnson because that's just a completely different monster.
Very different style receivers too.
But AJ Brown is big, and he's going to get the touches. You still should have kept Hill.
Should have kept Hill. Yeah, I'm ready to die on that hill. That hill.
I see what you did
there. I will lean Andrew unless Drew does something at quarterback. And this caveat, this is just my gut. I'm predicting something a little crazy here, but Drew, I've been hearing that Will Levis is going to be starting for the Tennessee Titans this weekend. If that's the case, I'm going to tell you to go pick up the rookie and take the flyer. Like it may completely blow up in your face. It may be the greatest move that you could possibly make. But as I've been trying to remind people in my line of work this week, inaction is an action, and it's never good. So make some sort of move at quarterback because Drew's team, there is a lot of pieces here that could be really good. I love Tony Pollard. I think that's a solid running back who just needs a little bit more help from the rest of his team. George Kittle has shown us that he can have those big games. It's pretty rare. And if you take Purdy out, I don't know what that does. It might be the quietest week from Kittle that you see all season.
Is it Sam Darnold that's on the 49ers?
Yep.
And I mean, maybe he'll light it up.
It's completely possible. Maybe that's the move, Drew. Go pick it up because Sam Darnold, in his best moments, he may give you 3 rushing touchdowns in the game. I don't know. So, do I love Stephon Diggs? Yeah. Do I like Tony Pollard? Of course. DeAndre Hopkins to me is still a great receiver, just in a terrible, terrible situation. So I will give the edge to Andrew, but it's not by much. I think both you guys are not going to have very good weeks. So Andrew by like 4.
Either
That's
one of
what
them
I'm
scoring
thinking.
100.
I don't think so. Not unless the defenses just go lights out or something.
All right.
Oh, yay!
Ryan and Mark against Ben. This is a big game.
Well, you remember what we were talking a while ago when we were trying to both pick our number threes for
Mm-hmm.
top 3 teams. This was our picks. So let me just go ahead and tell you my breakdown here. I'm looking at this. I will take my quarterback in that matchup.
Yeah.
I think I've got the better receivers. I've got Keenan Allen, Nico Collins, and Calvin Ridley. And I already told you, I'm not entirely sure Calvin Ridley is my starter. I have Mike Evans sitting on my bench right now. And part of me says that I am stupid for putting him on that bench because I don't think Mike Evans has scored less than 9 points in a game this year. So there's a good chance I mix that up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, little leery on Kamara's status, but keeping an eye on it. And what I think is going to be the big factor for me is Isaiah Pacheco running against the Denver Broncos defense. I think that is a happy, happy place for Isaiah Pacheco. Um, Also, the Chiefs love just absolutely smashing Denver on their home turf. It really makes us happy. So there's a special little vibe that comes in those kind of games. And I think Pacheco is primed for a pretty big week. So I'll even say, like, DraftKings, Pacheco is probably going to be my captain in some of those showdown lineups. So I think I pull it out, but I think that, again, this team, they're both very good teams. And if Travis Kelce decides to light it up again, then yeah, I'm in trouble. So I think this may be actually one of the closest games of the week. Or it's a complete blowout and I get my butt handed to me.
This is a tough one. I mean, I'm gonna go with Mr. Consistent with Ben on this, but it's one of those. The Dolphins, I think they're gonna rebound. They're playing against a crappy team. They could win against bad teams. And I imagine they're gonna rebound, and I could see Tua and Waddle just connecting.
Yep.
Um, Henry, like, I'm fine with the play this week, but the quarterback situation there, I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yep.
Kelsey, you can't hate that. And then they actually probably have the most productive kicker in the league with Elliott right now because the
Yep.
Eagles' red zone offense is not the best.
Yep.
Baltimore's defense against Arizona, I really like.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree. It's a
Uh,
great matchup for your defense.
this could be another week, Ben, that you lose because of their defense, but it won't just be because of their defense. It's because they're going to blow up. Honestly, this is a coin flip game.
Yep.
I'm picking you because your team is more consistent. I could see both these teams scoring north of 120, and it's like, well, my team showed up. They just lost.
Yep.
And also, like, with Josh Allen, he's going to rebound after last week. So positions, I think they're, for the most part, you have quarterback, he has tight end. The rest of it's pretty even. I think I like the matchups more for your running backs, and even your wide receivers, but not enough to make where I'm like, oh, Ben has a big advantage over this.
I don't see any huge advantage in this stuff. I think that, like I said, I think this boils down to, again, either one of the closest games or my guys don't show up and I really just get a shellacking.
If your team doesn't show up, you don't have a chance.
Yep.
So I think it's whatever team shows up more. So Ryan and Mark, the only reason I'm not picking you is because Ben's team has been consistent. Your team has not. I could see your team not being consistent this week. It has to show up. But when it does show up, it does show up big.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So far, we are the same.
Yeah, a little weird. Do I have to spend a lot of time on this?
Let's break it down. Go for it.
Break it down very quickly. I'm gonna go ahead and answer this with as easily as I can. I've I've told you guys how I feel about Josh's team. In the end, I'm gonna go ahead and say that all this boils down to is Patrick Mahomes playing against Denver. Josh wins. End of story. To me, it's that simple.
Are you done?
Yeah, that's it. I don't even have anything else to add. I think it really does boil down to that.
So I think Josh's team is going to show up this week, and if his team shows up, he's going to win. Taylor's team, it scores points. I don't know what's going on with Herbert. I think he's the next Matt Ryan. He's a B++ quarterback. Because I think overall he still has a losing record by either 1 or 2 games. I'm never going to pick the Chargers to win a playoff game. And
No,
I
unless
know
there's
he
an
has,
award.
yeah, and he has a broken finger. I don't know how much that's impacting his play, but he puts up some flashy numbers. Matt Ryan did the same thing, but he's not a winner.
No.
And I think the coaching staff's probably a bigger problem on that team too. But
yeah,
I like Herbert. It's just one of those. What kind of game are you going to get out of that? You might be able to go toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes, but sorry, I just don't see it happening. The rest of the team, I love Walker. He's been something special this year.
Walker's been
and I do
very
like
good.
Hall. The rest of it, you're just banking, hoping that you get a touchdown or your touchdown dependent. The Chiefs defense, I could see getting a lot of points this week. So if that becomes a lopsided game early, that would bode well for Taylor.
Yeah,
because I could see Chiefs getting up 4 touchdowns in the first half, and they're like, yeah, we're just gonna run the ball.
Yep. So yeah, I do agree, but I think there's very obvious weaknesses to Taylor's team. The wide receivers, I've said it every week that I've done the podcast. I'm not impressed with the wide receivers on this team. You got Gabe Davis down there in flex. I will never buy into it. Josh's team, I will. I still question the wisdom of playing Javonte Williams in your flex, Joshua. But maybe you're doing that out of necessity. I don't know. Let me go take a look. Joshua.
The
Oh
Wombo
my.
combo. He might do it yet. That's what you're
Yeah.
looking at, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to go play Rashee Rice.
He'll figure that out.
Yeah. Joshua Paul Hosslog, I'm just going to speak to you here for just 30 seconds here. So, here, come here real close. So, Josh, right here. You need to get Javonte Williams out of your flex. I know you're going to text me and ask me, hey man, who should I play? If I see Javonte Williams in that flex, I'm going to come find you. I'm going to steal your phone. I'm going to take your finger and unlock your phone. And then I'm going to take Javonte Williams out of your flex. Because there's just as much chance that McLaughlin does damage. So why not go with Rashee Rice, who has become the Chiefs' top receiver? Just saying. That's my TED Talk, Joshua. Thank you for paying attention. All right. That's all I have to say on that one, Mitch.
All right.
I say roll it to our next one.
All right. Oh, boy.
Oh. Steve, I love you, buddy, but I don't know how much time we have to actually spend on this one.
Let's break it down.
You start.
All
I'll just agree.
I mean, this is one of those. It'd almost be a tease if Steve wins this. because like I could beat the
It
best. I
really
could beat the
would.
best team in the league. Um, sorry, I might be a Dak Prescott hater. I think I like Mayfield. I think on man, I don't know. No, gotta give it to Dak. Not that I want to. I think Mayfield
Yeah.
has upside, especially on a Thursday night game. Um, wide receivers, I I get why you have Downs in there. It's honestly that might be the best thing you can do. Let's see.
Here, I'll just throw this out there. I'm looking at this right now, and you know, Steve, your wide receivers. Olave is a great receiver. He has Derek Carr throwing at him, so that's a problem. Uh, I really love David Montgomery. I think Gus Edwards had a pretty decent game last time, and maybe they're finally going to use him correctly. I hope to God that Austin Eckler can reach that potential that he
In
should.
Chicago,
I
come
love
on,
that
man.
man to death. Yep. So if there's ever a time for Eckler to just blow up, now's the time. So I love those plays. I don't love the quarterback position, and I know you're trying to figure out ways to get around that. But more than anything, here's what I'm looking at, which is you look at Steve's team and look at the projected points on his bench. That's why I just can't get my head around this sometimes. Confusion really is the word here.
It's a
But
product of what teams these players are on. It's if Cincinnati gets their
exactly.
act together, he has two stars that he could play. And San Fran defense
Yep.
has not been good. They don't know what's going
Nope.
on. That could potentially be a good play. Playing both of those. Brown, I get why he's on the bench. He's their best wide receiver, but he's you might get 10. I doubt it. Godwin, that's a swing for the fences. Either you hit big or you strike out.
Yep.
This
Well,
I know. So Derrick Henry's on the trade block. So
yep.
Steve is probably banking on this. Well, I mean, I'd hold on to him too. Yeah.
Tajay Spears.
Um,
Yep.
it's I I really think if Steve's team shows up, he has a chance. But he has to hope that AJ has one of his worst weeks.
Well, and so
But I think AJ, even a bad week, is going
I
to score at
also
least 90.
yep. But I also want to look at AJ's team here, which, again, wide receivers galore, but I don't love the running back situation. It's Saquon Barkley and Dante Foreman. He's got Zach Moss on his bench. Kyron Williams is on the IR. And then Brian Robinson. So looking at the bench, though, Adam Thielen is on the bench for AJ's team. And if you've paid attention to Adam Thielen, he has been basically putting up at least 20 points in almost every other game. Like, Adam Thielen's kind of a
Yeah.
monster right now. And I don't want people scoffing at what Zay Flowers is doing. The guy is pretty much locked in to get you roughly 9-10 points. I'm not saying it's a huge deal, but that is consistency. And so that's sitting on your bench. And we always tease AJ in regards to the trades, but AJ, this is exactly the position where you are available to go command some of these trades. You've got players that you could probably transition into maybe getting a little bit higher tier running back and not being forced to play Dante Foreman, or maybe leveraging this to get a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Because I don't know, Justin Fields, I can't tell you what version of him you're going to get on a given week. So, again, maybe that's where I get to talk this year is from consistent standpoint, but that also could be how I get burned this year. So looking at those things, I think that's something to remember. I think both of these teams are kind of primed to make a trade, and I think it would actually kind of behoove them to make a trade at this point. So that's kind of what I'm wondering. And then with the trade deadline coming up, Steve's team could potentially change drastically if even one of those players gets traded. So in the end, yes, AJ pulls out the win unless the gods smile down on Steve and Austin Eckler, I don't know, rushes for 450 yards and 28 touchdowns. I don't know. So sorry, Stevie. I want to root for you, buddy. I just, being a betting man, I'm not seeing it. I believe that moves us to the last one, right? Oh. Well, we both of us listed Cameron as one of our top teams. So Cam's sitting there in third and projected to win 104-92, and that's once again with Cameron not having a kicker. So let's go ahead and adjust that to at least 110
That's
for
fine.
Cameron. Yeah, so Cameron is actually projected to beat Matt by roughly 20 points, give or take. I believe it. Lamar Jackson has had some pretty stellar moments. Devontae Adams is still an elite receiver. He just really needs a better team. Deontay Johnson, yeah, he's good for some stuff. Not sure what to make of Jahmyr Gibbs or Ramondre Stevenson at this point. But again, with Cameron's teams, he always has Mark Andrews on there, and that is always a great, great addition for him. But he's got Christian McCaffrey, man. And if McCaffrey plays, what do you do? I really don't. I don't really know what you can do. So I give it to Cameron. You know, Clark's in a little bit of a hard spot, especially since the injury bug is kind of affecting some of his team. James Conner, I think, is on his IR slot right now, so that doesn't help him out having somebody who would have been a starter for him. Deebo Samuel, that one. Not saying he's had a good season, but the potential from Deebo can really add up. But he's a goose egg. He's absolutely useless to him this week. So I think that does really hurt Clark's chances. It really will boil down to what Baltimore does against Arizona this week, and if somehow Joe Burrow and Cincy can really just massively light up San Francisco. I think that's really Clark's only shot.
This is gonna sound kind of rough. Steve has a better chance to beat AJ than Drew. Not Drew. Clark does to beat Cameron. It's
well, yeah, you just threw that out there.
Love you, Clark. But your team is not as good as what your record shows. I'm just gonna say it, but I can't say too much. I've only won 2 games, but you get what I mean. Matchup. I mean, just going 1-to-1. Cameron has you across the board. Running backs is the only thing that you could compete with. Yeah. Maybe you'll have him on kicker, but you know how it goes with kickers. So you could win with your team. I mean, you've shown that you've won. I mean, record-wise, you're only 1 game back from Cameron, but Christian McCaffrey, you have to hope he puts up a 0 burger or gets hurt or something like that to have a chance.
I was just gonna say, Clark, there's always a chance for an injury.
But hey, man, you are winning games. You're finding ways to win games. It might happen against Cameron. I have every reason to think that Cameron's team will win. It'd have to be you need some luck on your side. Maybe some of that albino magic you can take it from Mike this week because it's not going to work for him. So, Cameron will score over 100 points.
Yep, I think that's almost guaranteed. Any week, really.
All right. that was the match
There you go.
breakdown.
Yeah, there's our matchups, and we're only like, I don't know, 45 minutes in.
we're 50 minutes in, so
Even better.
all right. Well, we have just a few more topics we're going to talk about. Ben, I am not going to elaborate too much on this, but you saw Josh and we had a big trade this week. Probably one of the bigger ones I've ever done or been a part of, and it was quite the adventure working with Josh. That's like the only words I could put into it. I plan on bringing him on back on in a couple weeks, and we'll kind of do a breakdown of that trade and kind of reflect on it, see how we still feel. But just real quick, in your opinion, what do you think about that trade?
I can actually tell you exactly what I told Josh because, again, it's little Josh. He texts
He told
everybody
me
and asks
everybody
what
he
they
talked
think.
to.
So Josh sent me that trade, and he goes, "What do you think?" Now, I actually looked at that thinking that he was the one who had Jalen Hurts, and well, no, he had Jalen Hurts, and
Yeah.
you had Mahomes. So, uh, he asked what I thought. I said, "Nope." So what I told him is, I said, "Josh, the quarterbacks are basically a wash in this situation because both of them have the ability to put up huge plays. So Patrick Mahomes through the air can do some serious damage. Jalen Hurts with the rushing ability and his arm, he's very much a dual threat quarterback. Both these guys, I think, are very much the top two quarterbacks you want on your fantasy team." So I said, take your pick. This is no longer about which one you want at quarterback. I said, this really isn't even about the trade. I thought it was more about potential keeper strategy, I guess, is kind of what I thought. But I told him that I thought Schultz is playing at a high level. Cooper is in need of more targets. I think Pittman is a stud. So Pittman would be the only reason that I would lean to that side of that trade. I said, it's very much an even trade. And I even suggested countering it to where neither of the wide receivers from either side would be included. And he's like, I already tried that. And he said no. So
yeah, just real quick on that. It started with
yeah.
just quarterbacks, and he countered with the tight ends, and then I countered with doing equivalent wide receivers to where it'd be almost a choice of preference. So, and I think the difference of points between Cooper and Pittman was less than 5. And Cooper's been getting targets, so.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not going to go into all that. I'm going to save that for a later episode because Josh and that was a interesting 24-hour period. I don't think you slept well that night.
I guarantee it. But what I really want is I want to come revisit this a couple weeks from now, and I want to hear from both of you how you feel about the trade. Like 4 weeks from now, I just want to be like, all right, and do you feel like you made the right move or not? Because I've been on the other side of these trades where I felt like I was probably not getting the best deal, and then 24 hours after the trade is done, Cameron's sitting there going, why did I do that trade? Austin Eckler's out for the season now. And I'm sitting there like, yay!
So I will say this.
So you never
this
know.
past week, the outcomes of our matchups would have been the same if we did not do the trade. So Josh actually got more points out of his new players this week than what I did out of mine. But I still won and he still lost. So okay. 2 more topics. So since it's been a few weeks since you've been on, we try to talk about best teams in the NFL. I think you and I could easily agree on 2 out of those 3 teams, and I'll safely say the Eagles and Chiefs are up there. So
Yep.
I think the interesting thing is, I want to know who that other third team, and they're you'd probably rank them number 3 because you probably have Eagles Chiefs or Chiefs Eagles at 1 and 2, and there's an argument for either one being at number 1, and then vice versa at 2.
Here's the problem with this, which is, all right, I still want to lean and say 49ers. I just think that there's too much talent on that roster to really look away. They find a great way to win. Christian McCaffrey is insane. They really just need to pull some pieces together and avoid the injury bug. And I think that they are very much a top tier playoff team. But I'll just go ahead and say, yes, I think the number 3 team is the 49ers, but it's very, very close that the next team up is, to me, is one of two options. It's either the Miami Dolphins or the Baltimore Ravens. I really think those two are both right on the cusp of making their case.
So, for number 3 for me, I actually have the Ravens. I feel dirty saying that, but if they are clicking and the players around Lamar Jackson are doing their job, then that's a team I don't want to play. Now I'm just talking about regular season. Playoffs are a different story. They'll choke. But I think the Ravens, I'd put them at number 3. I have strong concerns about the 49ers. I think we could get into a whole debate if Brock Purdy is their answer at quarterback. I won't dive too deep into it because it's only been a few games, but I think Brock Purdy is a product of that system. And I think there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league that could be successful on that team.
Yep. I think the 49ers, I think it goes to show just how effective Shanahan is as a coach. And I think that the system there is very much working, that he can plug and play at quarterback. He doesn't need somebody to be Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Could you imagine if he had somebody
he just
like
needs
that,
a game manager. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
But, and then their defense. I don't know what's going on with their defense. I mean, the way that you lost to primetime Cousins, I was a bit surprised.
Yep. It's really, it's hard to put the thumb on what the actual issue is there. I really don't know.
So, but all right. So you had you still had the 49ers in your top 3. I bumped them out and I put the Ravens in there. So
that actually reminds me, I want to go back and amend something that I said way at the beginning of the season, because you asked me who I thought was going to be there in the Super Bowl, and I went ahead and I took a big flyer, and I need to amend that. There is zero chance that Minnesota Vikings are going to make the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl.
That's right, you did say.
So I did. I want to amend that and say that I actually think right now, like, I'm kind of hoping that it's a Chiefs and Eagles rematch, but I think it's actually going to be Chiefs and 49ers.
You think the 49ers are going to get in there?
I do.
So
I do. I believe in the power of the white running back. He's unstoppable, man. If Christian McCaffrey is healthy, it's just so hard to game plan around that. We've seen what happens when they don't have a single quarterback. Then, yeah, Christian McCaffrey can't carry your team through a playoff. But I very much believe that if they had a quarterback, the NFC could have looked a little bit different last year in the playoffs.
Eagles still would have won.
So
I stand by that.
I think it very much would have been a much closer game. I think even you will
I think it
would
have been the same result. And I'll say this too with the Eagles, especially if the 49ers play the Eagles at the Link in the playoffs, Eagles will shut down McCaffrey because the Eagles could stop the run. And then they'll force it on Purdy. True. So I really think if 49ers, they turn around, if playoffs go through San Francisco, they'll go. If the playoffs play through Philadelphia, they're going to go. Those are two places I would not want to play. So, final topic. Ben, I saved this for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I know where this Swift is going. And Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Before I ask you how you're currently feeling, I think I've been, I don't want to say teasing, but I've been pretty okay with sharing stuff on Discord. It's been a couple weeks, but I love it. I mean, I'm not a Chiefs fan, so it doesn't bother me one bit. But I think the reason why I love it so much is because there's so many Chiefs fans that are just salty about that relationship. They don't like the distraction. They don't like the drama or anything like that. But what do you got there?
I got
Oh, you
my
just got your
beloved
beloved
hoodie.
hoodie. Does it say Swifty on the back?
I got my hoodie. No, I've been starting to wear this a lot more than my jersey, and I think you're going to figure out why.
Why?
Ready? Because it doesn't say Kelsey.
Well, what I'll say is, I know this last Sunday was tight end day, but National Tight
National
End
Tight
Day.
End Day, and everyone's going to make the case that Travis had a great game because he was playing there and she was watching. You know, it probably has just as much to do with the fact that Travis may actually finally be fully healed from whatever injury he had at the
That's
beginning
fake
of the
news.
season.
It's all T Swift.
But but on top of that, I'll go ahead and point that I do not believe that she's by any means making him play better. I think that she's actually kind of a little bit of a distraction. And you know what? I will say that as a Chiefs fan, I hope for the best for Travis Kelsey. And you know, if it's true love, then by all means, buddy, go after it. I encourage everyone to get there. But I can tell you right now that when you walk into the office that I run, you will see on my office door a sign that says this is a Swift free zone. That sign has been permanently placed on that door because if you come in to talk about Taylor Swift, you can walk right out. I do not have time.
Do you have the authority to call security?
I don't have to. Well, let me rephrase that. We are our own security. I'm not going to tell you what is in our offices, but if you were to look around, I promise you there are weapons available. No, I like I said, I wish him the best in these things, but I think that like most people who are kind of annoyed with this stuff, it's that I don't really care about celebrity news. I don't care who they're dating. And the cutaways and the time spent talking about Taylor Swift in the stands, to me, it's white noise. It's something I don't care about. But I'm also the exact same guy who goes to a game at Arrowhead and starts booing because he wants the cheerleaders to get out of the way so he can watch the game. I'm there for football. I'm there for the game. I don't care what the cheerleaders are doing. I don't care what Taylor Swift's wearing at the game. I'm there to watch Patrick Mahomes throw a 65-yard pass and Travis Kelsey catch a diving ball in the end zone, get up, maybe look at the other team and celebrate, get a flag, get a penalty, probably get a fine. You know, I want that. That's what I want. I want the game. I don't want the distractions from the games. So I don't care which celebrity's at the game. And you know what? They can say, oh, well, that's not fair. No, it is. Because the game where we were playing in New York, do you know who was sitting right next to Taylor Swift when they kept cutting to her? It was, what's her face? Sansa from Game of Thrones, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. How many times did you see them? Like, yeah,
Well,
is it? If we're going to make a big deal, I'm just saying, if we're going to make a big deal about celebrities being at games, then why aren't you talking about the fact that Paul Rudd is a huge Chiefs fan? You can catch him at almost all the games.
Well, the influence that T Swift has on that. Now, my stance on this, I am with you. Whenever the football game's going on, I want to see football. In between plays, no, I don't need to see that. So that part needs to go away. It doesn't happen too often, but that part needs to go away. In between commercial breaks, especially after a touchdown, that I don't mind because there's fans celebrating. And what better way to see it
Yep.
than celebrities celebrating for their team? So that part I don't mind. I compare it to, not that I want to bring up the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, but whenever the sports shows made things political and whatnot, and I know people, they stopped watching football because of it. And I'm like, just don't turn on the game until
Yep.
kickoff. That's all you got to do. Just keep football to football.
Yep.
So I hear you on that. The stuff in between plays, no, don't need to see it. I don't want the announcers talking about it. But the cut-ins in between commercial breaks and whatnot, or going to a commercial break, I'm all for, because I think that's kind of cool. But
Yep. See, I think you touched on a good point there, and that is that the reason that you're watching football is you're watching it because you love the game. It's escapism to something you really enjoy. So anything else that deflects from that, to me, is problematic. I think it ties into my stance on a bunch of bands that I just really don't want to go see anymore. Like, high school, we all listened to Green Day
Yep.
quite a bit, right? Green Day is one of those bands of our youth. Will I ever go see Green Day in concert? No, because everything has to be a political statement with them now. I'm just going to try and go watch something that I thought would be fun. I don't want to have to hear your views. I don't care what they are. So just let me have my fun. That's what I want. And if I can't do that, then yeah, I'll turn it off.
All right. Well, I promise not to. Well, I'll do my best not to bring up T Swift anymore during these podcasts. I wanted my moment with you. There's one more thing that I want to bring up real quick. I can't remember if I told you this or not, and I might get a head turn from Millie whenever she hears me say this. So, a few weeks ago, this was after I had a date scheduled for my next knee surgery. Well, I got invited to go to the Eagles and Chiefs game. I got tickets. It's that Monday Night Football game. My surgery is the Friday before. So, there's somebody I work with. She's a huge Chiefs fan. Her and her husband actually went to training camp earlier this year, and they're gonna get the tickets. So they're going to, like, some good fans of football. But yeah, it was like the very next day. I was like, Mitch, got your tickets. I was like, oh, all right, yeah, can't go. So that one pains me, because that's going to be one of the most exciting football games of the year. Monday Night Football, Super Bowl rematch. Probably whenever we get to that, there's still arguably be the best two teams in the league.
Yep, I really hope so.
But yeah, one of these days I want to get to an Eagles-Chiefs game in Kansas City. But this same rep, I think, is going to try to get me to go down to a Dallas Cowboys and Eagles game down in Dallas. He's from Dallas. My rep is. We're going to go golf in a tournament at a PGA tour or PGA course, and then watch a game in a box office suite. I think we're going to try doing that next year. So I think I'll be okay. But
yeah, I think you'll survive.
So yeah, Millie's turned her head a couple times on me. She's like, "Man, you had tickets to that game and then you can't go." So
yep, you done screwed up, AA.
Man, I spoiled Millie on that first football game we had. This was a few years ago. Middle box office seats. If you guys remember, I shared pictures in Discord. It was the Packers and Chiefs. Aaron Rodgers was hurt. I was so looking forward to that matchup. But best seats you could have had. T-Mobile invited me out to that game, and I got to bring Millie. We had valet parking. Like we parked as close to the stadium that we possibly could. It was amazing. It took forever to get out of there, but
yeah. So that's the downside.
But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up for this episode. We hit double digits, episode 10. We'll hit episode 11 next week. As always, if you guys like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you all next week. Peace.